Hey everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to talk about why internet branding is so important. For any business and how you can achieve internet consistency in modern SharePoint. A few housekeeping items before we get started. There's still people getting in the call. Use the chat bubble to write in any questions and make sure to include everyone when you do. We will be answering any questions that you may have. We will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. And also, this webinar is going to be recorded, so you'll be receiving an email in the next few days with the recording. So let's get started. Today we have a great panel with us. We have me, which is Claudia. I'm the digital marketing specialist here at BindTuning. We have José, which is the platform front-end developer at BindTuning. And we have, last but not least, Carlos, is a platform team lead at BindTuning. So what we will cover today. Today we will talk about why should you customize your intranet, what branding options do you have, and how you can achieve internet consistency. So why should you customize your intranet? Think of your intranet as an iceberg. At a surface level, branding your SharePoint intranet can simply involve applying a theme, which is your corporate logo, your colors, your typeface, or your font size. But at a deeper level, branding an intranet can involve much more than simply changing your color palette. I'm talking about your employees, colleagues, or teams. And they are ultimately your user, right? So a few years ago, Bruce Kazanoff came up with a loose concept called underbranding. Underbranding is the concept of focusing more attention on the elements that underlie your company's brand. So really, when you are designing an intranet, you are designing employee experiences and everything that implies, whether it's adding new functionality, streamlining mundane tasks, or simply creating a space where employees feel they can communicate with one another. As you can see, branding is much more than colors and fonts. But what does this have to do with engagement or internet adoption? Engaged employees are your #1 brand advocates. But they can only feel engaged with your brand when you provide branded experiences that help them accomplish their goals and tasks in the most pleasant and stress-free way, or when you provide them community-centric experiences, credible, innovative, and inspiring experiences. The key here is really brand. Brand is a subject perception of value based on the sum of persons' experiences with a product or company that ultimately influences that person's sentiment and decisions. Being that person's experiences, sentiment, and decisions are really the key words here. But how can you build this subject branding perceptions to trigger sentiments, experiences, and decisions in your employees? Recently, I was watching TV when an ad came on, and I sat there thinking, why do I know this brand X commercial? I will not mention the brand. Without them showing their logo, even subtly, without a voice-over informing me it was brand X, I instinctively knew I was watching an ad from that brand. But how have they convinced me that the style of ad I was watching is exclusive to the brand X without so much as a logo on the bottom right of the screen? The answer really is consistency. When you have consistency, your brand is more powerful and the message is much clearer. But it takes more than just fonts and colors to have consistent branding. It involves everything: tone, style, mission, message, style, and ultimately your intranet. So it really all starts from within, and that includes your intranet. Your intranet needs to provide value for your employees, And what I mean by value is how you can help them complete their tasks in the most pleasant and effective way. That will ultimately influence your employees' sentiments, emotions, and decisions towards your brand. But in order for you to have brand consistency, your intranet needs to be consistent too. It needs to be consistent with your message, with your mission, and it needs to be consistent with your styling. The problem is how you can fit all of your branding requirements in SharePoint. Sometimes you need to change something or remove something or add something that most of the times are not possible in the new modern experience as it is. So let's see, what branding options do you have? You can stay within the limits that SharePoint offers. You can take a chance on a few hacks. You can stay on Classic. You can use SharePoint in a different environment. And you can use a third-party intranet solution. So this will ultimately lead to brand constraints, intranet constraints, consistency constraints, and it can lead to disengaged employees with the brand and frustrated employees because they can't complete a task in the most pleasant and stress-free way. But how can you achieve intranet consistency? I'm going to hand this over to Carlos. He will talk about brand consistency.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you, Claudia, for this amazing introduction. So now I'm completely in love with the branding inside SharePoint with your intro. Okay, so we recently introduced our new themes settings panel. So this new kind of functionality will give you all the branding functionality you will need to customize your BindTuning theme and the environment inside any modern SharePoint. It has other kind of functionality, like, for example, while you are working on the theme, you can detach the panel and move it around, like you can do in the normal operating systems, like the Windows, or you can just dock and then dock the option of the theme settings panel, like you do on our builder tool inside the customizer. Okay, so here is what you need to know about the theme settings panel. First thing is completely free with your theme. It is ready for the modern experience and fully integrate with the Office 365 themes. And it has custom CSS for more branding functionalities that you don't get with other branding solutions in the markets. So one of the amazing things is to have a theme applied inside your environment and to get up and running the theme settings panel. You can just start using our Clutch, the provisioning engine that we provide, so that will be the bootstrap will be amazing, because that will deploy the theme inside your Office 365 environment in just a few minutes. With the new settings panel, you can customize all your UI elements, like the options like compact mode, apply a favicon, apply a different URL in the logo from your intranet, and much more options. You can fine-tune your navigation, and last but not least, you can build on the top of the SharePoint with more advanced branding options that we provide. To make the navigation more flexible and feature-rich, we have added our own navigation provider. This amazing functionality gives you more robustness of our Bind menu 2.0 that was in full production for the classic themes for the last 2 years, but now is available as well for the modern environment. So you have a lot of options in this kind of section. You can just type the kind of navigation that you want to have on the menu. You can even specify the kind of trigger that you want to apply on the menu, like if you want an over or a click. You can also set the width from the submenu. So you have a lot of flexibility to apply in this kind of options. As a fellow developer, it would be fair to say that I feel we have made the greatest strides with our advanced section. The modern experience has opened the window of possibilities, but unfortunately, the door of the flexibility for developers were closed. So unless we are using a SPFX framework to create, for example, a custom web part or extension, you really have no way to changing the environment. With the BindTuning settings panel, we give back of the classic SharePoint functionality. So what we have provides with our custom CSS field, we have now extended to the custom scripts and the ability to add entire JS and CSS files. So in order to check how all of these options can be achieved inside the modern experience inside SharePoint, now I'll pass the presentation to José so we can demonstrate all these topics in action.
So I'm just going to jump right in. Carlos gave us a wonderful introduction to the features that we have been adding to the settings panel. So first things first, I'm going to turn on our dark mode over here. I'm a developer, so I'm kind of used to this kind of visual style. This sort of gives us the ability to add some additional things that we can do with SharePoint out of the box. So with classic SharePoint, we'll do something as simple as like changing the fav icon on the browser. We would have to edit the master page within the modern experience. There is absolutely no way to do that. So one of the first things that we did was to provide the ability to change the fav icon. So what I did here is I grabbed the new SharePoint logo. They're redesigning all their branding. So I grabbed that, converted into a fav icon, and I'm just going to add that here. This green outline you see here is so our input fields that take in files. What they'll do before you apply the setting you're trying to set, they will give you the information about whether or not the file exists, whether or not the file is valid, and this you can still apply it even if invalid if you're hell-bent on destroying your fav icon. But this will just give you a little notice so that you know that your file actually exists. So I'm just going to apply this right here. And as you can see, it's a little bit small, but you can see that now we have the new logo. So something else we can do here is so the logo, this logo right here, is wrapped around a link that you can set to a specific page. So with hub sites, usually the root site of a tenant is not a modern site, and the logo tends to redirect to the root site, which might not be what you want if you want to build a completely modern experience. So what we can do here is just set Google to redirect to the hub site, and you can do this for every associated site you have to your that way, every time you click the logo, you will be redirected to the root hub site and not the root of the tenant, which is not going to be a modern experience. So beyond this, we have a couple of UI settings here. You can enable compact mode to get a little bit of extra room on your page. You can apply the headings to the theme only or to the theme and page content. The reason why we create this distinction is because Microsoft sort of frowns a little bit on affecting the page content directly. So what we do, instead of just enforcing that for every instance of the theme, is we just give you the ability to choose whether or not you want to do that. In this case, because we're using Ignite, and by default Ignite uses the same font family as the SharePoint, we don't actually see any difference because it's both of them are using Segway UI. So additional, we have options to hide the footer. Maybe you don't want that. You can hide the breadcrumb, and I'm just gonna dock here so that you can see what's going on over there. You can see the breadcrumb toggling, the page title, and the feedback button, which is no longer present on this kind of page, but is also something that you can show if you want. So beyond this, we have our navigation settings. And as Carlos was saying, we've introduced our own navigation provider. And this gives us some additional flexibility. So you can still use the old one if you wish to. But now you can use something like term set navigation, say. And what this does is pretty much it bypasses SharePoint's navigation, and you can just go straight for the term set you want by grabbing the unique identifier over here. So this would be the root term star. Now we get the ID for the term set itself, and we can apply it, and we're going to see the navigation. Excuse me, I'm just gonna grab that over again, and we can see the navigation changing there. So with our new navigation provider, you get a bunch of new options. So everything, if you've been with us for the past few years, you probably know that we allow for a lot of customization on the menu with our classic themes, and we've recently ported all of that functionality into modern. So one thing you can do is use mega menus, for example. And I'm just going to apply just to show you here. So this is the way this currently looks. And now when I change to mega menu, no need to refresh the page here. Now we have our mega menu set in place. You can do additional things here. You can make the animation appear slowly. You can decide where it comes from. You can set a maximum, essentially a bunch of dimensional settings. And this one here can be quite useful if you have a very extensive navigation. You can say, let's say I want a maximum of 4 menu items, and what this is going to do is it's going to hide the remaining items under their own menu. So when you come over here, you have this hidden on their own submenu. So moving on to the advanced section. So this is where we've really went the extra mile here, because one of the difficulties we've been experiencing even internally is that if we want to create any sort of solution that just affects the page minimally, so we want to do something small, we still need to create a whole package with the SharePoint framework to actually make that happen. So, and a lot of the time you don't necessarily want to go through a process of major implementation when all we want to do is just change one color, you know. So now we give you the ability to add custom CSS script and additional resources. This is just for JS and CSS files. So let's say you want to import something like jQuery, and we're going to start with that because we were going to use the resources of jQuery inside our custom script here. So this means that the additional resources section is going to load the files synchronously, and only after it loads those files is it going to run the code on the custom script. This is then it's kind of obvious. So when we want to use a framework on our custom script, we need to have it loaded beforehand. So I'm just going to grab the latest jQuery CDN here, and I'm going to add it to our additional resources. I'm going to get. All right, so. Same thing here, it's going to check if our file actually exists. And now we can come over here and just write our code. I already have some pre-prepared code here. It's just a little snippet. And what this is going to do is it's going to change the position of the navigation. We've had some clients request a feature to have the hub navigation on top of the header, because philosophically speaking, like this makes perfect sense, since the hub navigation is the connector between all of the site collections, and it makes sense that it would be the first element, although the extension by default, by design, Microsoft's design, it will load the extension beforehand. So we can add this little script, there's nothing to it. And when I click apply, it will load the jQuery framework and then run the custom script. And this is changing the position of the hub navigation. Now we have this hub element here with our logo, and this is kind of redundant when I've already configured this logo below to redirect to the source of the hubs. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add some CSS to get rid of that, because besides not being necessary with the hub, so some people have hubs connecting a great amount of site collections, and that'll just that makes the space we need to actually all the menu items a critical issue. So I'm just going to add the CSS. We're going to apply it, and there now we have a little bit of extra room to add some stuff there. We also have some additional resources here that our themes So these are classes for that use the customization that you create in other to populate these classes. So we have all these primary colors. These are the main 6 colors, but then we have an article with all remaining CSS classes and resources that the theme makes available to the user. So beyond this, we have this section which includes a bunch of links, different links to areas of our site. As we provide the license, the change log, documentation, and the feedback zone, so you can explore this and see what's there. It's just a way to make it easier to access these sort of resources. And then after you configure everything, I'm just going to apply all these changes here. Because we have many options now, we might want to save them permanently, and we can do that by exporting these settings. And now we have the settings in a JSON file, which will include everything that we've been modifying here. Now, if we move on to a different site, let's say this communication, we can come over to the and my file here. Content title. When we see that it gets imported correctly, the files are loading, everything is similar. This process can be unpractical if you have hundreds of sites. So for the future, what we're working on now is, and I'm going to show you a development environment now. One is we have multiple. What we're working now is is being able to have multiple sources for settings. So maybe by default now we save the settings at the site level. So if you have at the site collection level, excuse me. So if you have your site collection, you save the settings, and then you access another site collection with the same theme. Those settings aren't going to propagate by default unless to import and then unless to export and then import the settings. This can be inconvenient. So what we're doing is we're adding the ability to actually select our source you want. And I have our night theme here. I had some CS to make the visual, some minor visual changes to the theme. And when I actually to a different source, we're going to apply this, and it's going to load the settings from a different source. Beyond this, we're also working on the same idea, but for the navigation source. So let's say right now my navigation is being provided by the internal site collection here, this one that we're on, but I have a different one over here with a different navigation, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the navigation from this site by specifically stating it, and we're getting the navigation from that site. This is useful if, let's say, you have a global navigation that you want to use on multiple sites. Maybe you have a subsite where you want to use the parent site navigation. So this is just a way to extend what SharePoint does by default and give you an additional layer of flexibility.
So how you can get started with the theme settings panel? You can either update your existing theme, or you can visit BindTuning.com and try out a theme, or you can use Clutch to set up the theme settings panel. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you in the next webinar.